Michaela Renava in the NESN studios alongside our hockey analyst Billy Jaffe ahead of Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, which now is down to a best of 3. Billy.
Never would have thought it got here, quite honestly. I thought it'd be a 6-game series. I did.
Really?
I did, but when they went down to nothing.
Pens in 6?
Yeah, I thought the Pens would be in 6. Although I hate it when teams win on the opponent's ice. Hate it. Now after seeing everything that's going on in Asheville too, I want the home team to win on home ice.
You want the home team to win on home
Just
ice.
for the celebration.
It seems that goaltending has been what's tipped the scale so far. So since you want the home team to win on home ice, what do you think of Mike Sullivan's decision? He's sticking with Matt Murray. We saw that he looked human in games 3 and 4.
Yeah, I think Mike Sullivan would say it hasn't been the difference. What's interesting is that he once had a great goaltender going in Marc-Andre Fleury, right, early on in the playoffs until the Ottawa series. And then he made the decision to go back with Matt Murray, who led him to a Stanley Cup last year. And so was it controversial at the time? I was doing that series. I remember when the switch happened. It wasn't so much controversial, it was, what's he going to do? And I think he went with the guy that he's most comfortable with. It's not that he doesn't love Fleury. It's not that he doesn't trust Fleury. It's just there's something about Matt Murray that says to him, and he said it in his presser, we didn't lose because of goaltending. Now, maybe Matt Murray didn't steal a game. See, that's the thing. Goaltenders in this situation, PEKKA RINNE, he was stellar in game 3 and 4, but I thought game 1 and 2 he was just okay. Now he didn't single-handedly lose it, but he sure didn't help his team win. I thought Matt Murray was okay. I'm of the school of thought if you believe he's your number one, unequivocally your number one, then you stick with him. So I'm all for Mike Sullivan sticking with Matt Murray. Why
that level of comfortability with Murray over Fleury?
I think because he won with him. I think that's a big difference last year that he won with him. Yes, it's a what have you done for me lately type of league. It's kind of like last game you weren't great, so I'm going to change something. But it wasn't so bad. I just think that Matt Murray, despite the fact that he's truthfully still considered a rookie, but we'll call him in his second year, given his playoff experience last year, I think there's just that knowing factor of he won it for us, meaning he was the guy in net that won it for us last year, and that he is so solid, and his style is different than Fleury. Fleury's got this beautiful athleticism to his game. Matt Murray is much more controlled, much more calm, even though they're just almost the same size, he appears bigger. I just think there's that comfortability of knowing that they won with him that keeps him in the net.
Well, you say a goalie can steal a game. Would you say that PEKKA RINNE has stolen any games in games 3 and 4?
Well, game 4 he made the tremendous save on Gensel coming in that was just fun, awesome. It reminded me of being a kid when you're playing, street hockey in your basement or floor hockey, and bam, you fly, you Superman out there and you make a save. You're like, oh my God, I'm sure PEKKA RINNE said, I can't believe I made that save. It's just how it is. Did he steal the game? I thought he was part of a process of stealing the game. The Penguins did play very well. They had more, opportunities, but I wouldn't say that he single-handedly stole the game. Again, I go back to the series, Ottawa against Pittsburgh. Craig Anderson stole one of those games, facing 46 shots in that game. PEKKA RINNE only faced a couple of shots in game 1, wasn't good. A little bit better in game 2, still lost. Significantly better at home, where he has been magnificent this season at home. And I think that he had a big part in them winning game 4.
So part of the recipe that is sort of stealing games against these Penguins, who are known for their high-powered offense. Mike Sullivan said he thought that game 4 was actually the best game the Penguins have played. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I would. I would say that was their best game. Doesn't matter, though. They didn't win. Just like Nashville had a phenomenal game 1 and they lost. Again, it's a results-oriented business, right? That's what it's about. So I would say that the Penguins did a lot of good things in game 4, really good things. Got their speed factor up. They got their exits out of their zone up, which leads to better speed play because you get puck possession through the neutral zone as a team. But, goal scoring sometimes comes and goes. Even though Sidney Crosby got a goal, the rest of the guys didn't in that one. The Pittsburgh Penguins, and I think the Preds for this matter, for the Nashville Predators, I think they're different teams, home versus road. And, I look for, and I know that Mike Sullivan will make some changes heading into Game 5 with his lines to try and spark some changes offensively for his team.
What do you anticipate those changes to be? We saw at practice, Malkin and Kessel were back on the same line.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, who are those guys from the Muppets? You're too young. You don't know. The guys that would argue up Waldorf and Stadler, you know, that's kind of what they are, those two guys. They bicker, but yet I think they really genuinely like each other. And it's more about passionate bickering, if that's what it says. I don't know if my wife would agree with that or not. But I think that this worked in the playoffs, putting them together at home a lot. Home versus road, as you well know, you have the last change at home. You can manipulate line matchups a lot more than you can on the road. You have a better chance of getting out guys, especially forwards, against different defensemen than you want, okay? So that's what Mike Sullivan's going to try and do. He loads up. He's putting Connor Sheary, who has been riding the roller coaster of on the bench, on the ice an awful lot, once in a while scratched. He's been riding it. He's going to be, it looks like, riding shotgun along with Gensel with Sidney Crosby. Now, if you go back to Game 7 against Ottawa, Sidney Crosby had two different line mates, or two different pairs of line mates. He had his top guys. He had Gensel up there, and then on his fourth line, he took shifts with Kunitz. And then all of a sudden, halfway through the first period, the fourth line guys were with the first line guys because they were going. That's what Mike Sullivan's going to do heading into this game. He's going to find out, he's going to put together his best pairs again, and he's going to manipulate it as it goes on.
Okay, well, the Predators' front four defensemen have 11 points in this series compared to Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, Gensel, also 11 points. So when you look at that lack of offensive production for the Pens, strategically, aside from the line combinations, what can Mike Sullivan do to adjust to be getting more out of his offense?
First of all, just one point. I look at the Preds' defense as their strength. It's pretty obvious.
Yes.
I look at the Pens' forwards as their strengths. So I kind of look at it and I say each of them on home ice have kind of lived up to their strengths. The Pens scoring, people look at it and say, whoa, look at all the points that they're producing. That's what they do. That's how good they are. So how much more? I would like to think it's more than just the top guys from the Pens. Yes, you'd like Kessel to score, no question. He had eight shot attempts in Game 4. And Malkin said, I can't do Russian well, but he said that he's going to score. He's ready for him to score after Game 4. But I think that I'd like to see more out of other guys on the Penguins up front. I just don't. The Penguins' offense from their defense comes and goes. Now, Justin Schultz has been back in the last few games. Trevor Daley's playing on one leg for the most part.
I was going to say, with comes and goes, it's gone, seems to be right now.
Yeah, because they have been having, especially the last couple of games, have had, Game 1 too, remember, Pens really got dominated a lot in Game 1. They've played a lot in their own zone. How do you control offense? What's the best way? Play in their defensive zone, meaning keep them out of the offensive zone. So that's why the Pens defense hasn't produced offensively. It's all about, to me, it's all about their zone breakouts. And then if they can get extricated out of their own zone quickly, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they can get their defense involved, weak side on the rush. I keep going back to earlier series. I saw them do it as they got better against Washington, and I saw it do them against the Ottawa Senators.
My point in bringing up the points comparison is that when the Predators, although their defense is their strength, they're getting that kind of production out of their defense, the forwards are also having, I won't go so far as to say having their way, but without they're
doing well.
Effective.
They're very effective.
Penguins defense.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to be impressed with Freddie Gaudreau, with how well he stepped in, scored a couple of goals, first ever NHL goals in the Stanley Cup final. Wow, what a fantasy world he's living in right now. I see things that I like an awful lot from the Preds forwards. Again, I go to the last two games in particular. Their giddy up has been great. Their speed, their explosiveness, they're getting to the front of the net, or using the net to their advantage has been excellent. They're playing fast hockey. I remember watching Game 4, especially the first half, before the Penguins really, again, they played well in Game 4. When they really started to get going for a while, it was like, all right, the Pens are starting to break out. And bam, the Predators are right there. They're right on top of them. They're taking the passing away. They're taking their speed away. As a hockey player, sometimes you just end up saying, I feel like I'm going well, but man, they're catching up to me. I can't separate from them. Right now, the Pens have helped that way. It looked that way against the Predators. Yet, this really has been a home ice series. I go back to this. First two games, despite the fact that the Predators outplayed them in Game 1, they didn't win. This is the ultimate test, Game 5 tonight. This is it. What's going to happen? Because this changes the tenor of the series completely right now.
So why? What is it about the Predators playing at home? I know they've got Carrie Underwood, the country music stars, Catfish. How can they come into PPG Paints Arena and be that team that they are in Nashville?
That, from a hockey player's perspective, you go into an opposing arena and it becomes you against the world, kind of that gladiator mentality where you look around and it's, all right, this is great, it isn't our crowd, but let's shut them up. That's what it comes down to. So how do they do it? They channel, instead of the energy behind them, which is that tidal wave of emotion and passion and everything, and you say, all right, let's take that negative energy coming towards us, that the people, that's vile, they can't stand the Nashville Predators in Pittsburgh, right? Use that towards the energy that way too. It's the old saying, don't try and do too much. Go in and play smart hockey. I think they take an awful lot out of their first two appearances, despite the fact they didn't win in Pittsburgh. I think they say, look at all the good things we did. Look at all. Not enough good things, but look at all that we did. Hey, everybody thought we were done when it was 2-0 in favor of Pitt. It's not done. We tied it up. All we got to do now is go in right now. We win this game. That's what they're saying. I guarantee. Peter Laviolette, by the way, is phenomenal. Phenomenal. I was just talking to Eric Nystrom, who played for Peter Laviolette for 3 years. He is phenomenal at pregame speeches. I guarantee you, in the locker room tonight, he will look at his players and say, if we win one game tonight, one game, we take control of this series. We have completely turned this series around. All it takes is one game. That's it. The guys are going to be dying to get out on the ice.
What kind of things is it that does he say that really lights the fire for his team, that make his pregame speeches
Well,
so
he's just
impactful?
fiery. He's just real fiery. He's real intense. There are certain guys that are better speakers. There are certain guys that are better tacticians. There are certain guys that have better one-on-one ability in game. Peter's got a nice combination. I mean, I've never sat in the room for one of his pregame speeches, unfortunately, but he is, from the morning after, I'm told, or after doing video in the morning after team meetings, to right before the guys go on there, he delivers the message succinctly, but then he gets into the emotional part of it. This is what it's going to be like. This is what we are about. This is what we need to do. And I'm telling you, fellas, and he gets real intense. And sometimes shorter is sweeter is better. Guys, start tuning out. They want to get out there. They don't want to listen for 5 minutes. It's like me yelling at my kids regularly. Shorter is better.
Pick your battles.
Well, I still have a lot of learning to do there.
Well, PEKKA RINNE yet to grab a win in Pittsburgh in his career, so that will be a first for him if they're able to do it.
Can't look at it that way, though, because if he's thinking about all the past, but I know you're not asking or suggesting that. All the press in the world is saying you've never won in Pitt. No, he's just got to say, I don't care. I've never won a Game 5 in Pittsburgh. That's all he's got to say, because I've never played in a Game 5 in Pittsburgh. He's going to have to step up. There's no question. He's still, to me, he is the ultimate wild card of this national team.
So do you think that he will be, if you say he's the wild card,
I don't know.
Scale tipper?
Yeah. Oh, no question. No question. He's absolutely. I mean, if PEKKA RINNE is average, I don't see them winning the game. If he's good, I could see them winning it. If he's great, yeah, great chance. But if he's average, because his average to me isn't good enough. When he was younger, it was. Right now, his average means 1 or 2 bad goals against in a game. His good, maybe a half a goal a game against on average. I know you can't cut the puck in half, but when he's that way, you can give up one that you're like, oh, maybe he could, but that type of thing. If he's good to great, they got a good chance of winning. If he's just average, I don't think they have a chance.
So if the Predators do pull this off and win, do you have him as the Conn Smythe winner?
Probably, because he's, if you take his full body of work for all 4 rounds into play, yeah. I would say I would give him the Conn Smythe lead. Either that or Freddie Gaudreau. I'm kidding. He won't get it. He doesn't have a seat in the locker room right now.
Well, on the ice, we've seen Listerine come out. Usually it's claws coming out in the Stanley Cup playoffs. How would you compare the aggression level, the physicality of this series compared to Cup finals past?
No, almost an unfair question. Not that it's a bad one at all. I'm saying because you can't. The game of hockey has changed so much in the last decade, even in the last 5 years. Coming out of the last lockout, but first of all, the 2004 lockout, we went away from a lot of the things, the clutch and grab, everything, the battles in front. and then it's gone less and less and less. Went back a little bit. I mean, it's just changed so much. I mean, this series, there's no natural rivalry between Pitt and Nashville. We know that. But how do you create a rivalry? Playoff series usually. So I think there will be a better one. There's no question about it now once this completes. But it's been physical, but it's been more about full team against each other. I mean, we've seen highs and lows from each team. Seen some spectacular plays offensively, some great saves. We've seen some questionable misses. We've seen some questionable no calls. It's had a lot of fun stuff. See, I think it's been a great final so far, but to call it real physical and nasty, no. I think we saw some real nasty. You want to talk about nasty. We saw some real nasty in the conference final between Nashville and Anaheim, but there's rivalry there. We saw some of that in the Washington-Pittsburgh series. There's rivalry there. When you have those real intense rivalries, that's when you see a lot of the stuff come out.
Well, that's why I ask, because as you say, there's no real rivalry between these two teams, but what do you make of the chippiness between Mike Fisher and Sidney Crosby?
Guys going one-on-one. That's what it's a veteran in Mike Fisher who could retire this year at the end and spend more time singing notes at home with Carrie Underwood, or it's against the guy in Sidney Crosby who's still in the prime of his career, and Fisher's saying, "You're not going to pass. I'm not going to let you get by me easily. I'm going to." Mike Fisher is a competitive son of a gun.
What does that do for the younger guys on the Predators, seeing their leader go up against Crosby like that?
Well, first of all, it's his job. Okay, so he's doing his job. Sorry, Bill Belichick. But he's doing his job. Secondly, he's saying, "I got it. I'm here, guys. I'm doing my part. Don't you worry. Not so much climb on my back, but I'm going to take care of this, and I'm going to show their head honcho that I'm their captain. That I'm going to be around him all night. I'm going to make his life miserable. It's going to be harder to do on the road because of matchup." So that's an area that Mike Sullivan should be able to get Crosby a bit away from him if he so elects. It's good for the young guys because they just say, okay, our cap is there, our captain is there, and that's what you need. You need to know, not that again that he's got your back, but he's got the front. He's leading the way. That's what a leader has to do. So that adds an element. There's no question about it. And from just a physical one-on-one standpoint, he's made it tougher on Sidney Crosby, who, oh, by the way, had a hell of a game in Game 4.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, I got to thinking, and the flow of this series, the goaltending, can you draw any comparisons between this Cup final and the 2011 Cup final between Vancouver
Yeah,
and Boston?
there's been some not speculation, but there's been stuff talked about that. I covered that series. I was all over it, working it. I guess, I mean, because you had a quote-unquote working team, in the Boston Bruins against a more skilled team, in theory, in the Vancouver Canucks. You had, you had attitude. That was nastier. It's funny, though, even though there wasn't a natural rival between those two teams, that was a bit nastier. That could have been the Bruins, though. That could have been their way. And the game was just changing, you know what I mean, at that point. I guess there's parallel between losing games, then coming back and making it a best of 3. Sure, I'm good with that. I'm fine, especially if it makes for a good story.
Well, I'll end with asking you if you think the winner of tonight's game is going to be telltale of what happens with these final 3.
How's this for a sit-on-the-fence answer, which is never comfortable, by the way. If Pitt wins, no. If Nashville wins, yes.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
If Nashville, it's a lame answer, but because I'm not giving you that one distinct answer. But I happen to think, just the tenor of the series right now, if Nashville wins, I'd be shocked. I would be shocked if Pittsburgh goes into Nashville and wins that game. If Pittsburgh wins, obviously they have a better chance of winning one of these 2 remaining games, but I'm not saying that they would win it in 6. They may take 7.
All right. I actually like that answer, so I'll take it. I'll take sitting on the fence.
Then I'm happy. It's not comfortable.
Billy, thank you.
Yep.